one nation, under God.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided, as is required by Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, with respect to the Home News Tribune to publish the same. This announcement must be entered into the minutes of this meeting. For those attending the meeting today, please be aware that all board meetings are recorded via audio. Roll call.
Chairwoman Engel,
Here.
Commissioner Frankel,
Present.
Commissioner Katz,
Here.
Commissioner Moskowitz.
Here.
Adoption of the minutes of June 30th. And the regular public
Yeah.
meeting.
Actually, I think we have 3 other minutes to adopt too. There was the June 8th, June 11th, and June 16th, which are mostly examination of ballots. So with everyone's permission, I'll move to adopt all 4 sets of minutes.
Second.
The 8th of sorry, repeat again, so.
June 8th, this is what we got originally. June 8th,
Right,
June 11th,
okay.
and June 16th in addition to June 30th.
Okay.
It's all post,
Okay.
And June 30th.
Right.
Okay, roll call.
Chairwoman Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Frankel,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz.
Yes, I would like to ask a question about minutes, please. Mr. Lynch, at one point I had sent some corrections and received back an email that said the corrections were in red, that I should note that the difference is in red, and when I did see something, I did not see any red markings on it.
That was in his email, not in the full-time minutes.
That was in my, I couldn't send you an email, so I transcribed them to Maria, and Maria replied. What was in red was my response to your questions about the minutes.
Because we got it, you
Did
got it back, your
red.
comments. Yeah, Tom added his
I know
comments
it-
in red under your,
And I
in your
didn't
comments.
see red.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why I'm asking.
Yeah, but the minutes themselves, then were retyped, did not show the changes. I mean,
Did
the
not.
changes were in there, but it did not show.
That there was
in
a
red.
difference. Okay, thank you. I did not see
We
any of
did
them.
make changes to particular questions, but I answered your email because I couldn't answer it, so I asked Maria to answer it.
Thank you.
Okay. Old business. The 2021 primary election follow-up.
Yeah, I'll just run through a couple of the items. One was from the last meeting when we did the overview. One of the questions from Commissioner Katz was, and then also Commissioner Chairwoman Engel, was regarding Spotswood and a complaint from the Republican chairman. So we pulled the results tape as well as the machine tape in terms of comparison. Before you, the numbers from the Republican chairman are not equal to what was on the results tape. The results tape and the results that were published are accurate and add up. So again, I haven't spoken to the chairman, so I don't know where those numbers came from. But the numbers reflected before you are accurate and are the results of both the machine tape and the results themselves.
I think, because I looked at that, and I think I talked to the chair. I think that was probably a result of a poll clerk error setting because the machines did multiple districts in many of our towns, as we know, and it's in Spotswood. And I suspect that the one poll clerk set the machine, or however it was done, gave a card that showed the other district as opposed to the one that they were in. Because if you look at the number of votes that were cast for this is Republican gubernatorial candidates in the 2 districts, I think if you add the 2 of them together, it matches the number of votes that were cast in those 2 districts. So I think they did it wrong. So there may be, I don't know which poll clerk set it up, did it, but I think that's what the issue was. I don't know if anybody
Any other comment?
if that explanation is clear or not, but.
The write-ins?
Another item that was brought up during that review was regarding the write-in write-ins and whether or not they'd be part of the website. So I did circle back to the county clerk as at your request, and they said that moving forward with the new system that we had talked about in terms of conducting write-ins, that we would be able to have write-ins posted on the website as a link. So you would be able to see like a PDF of the write-ins post-election when adjudicated by the Board of Elections.
Can the machines, the concept is also that the machines be programmed so that the actual write-ins show up on the tape itself, so that people at the polls, if they see the tape, can see who was written in and how many votes they got. Is that part of this?
Well, we'll be
Not just on the
having,
website.
we'll be having discussions with the clerk about November, so we can circle back on that.
Okay, we
but-
need, well,
The clerk's
November is
office-
less of an issue than a primary.
The clerk's office so far, from what I heard from Deborah, is they're not interested in having that because it is not an accurate depiction, so they want write-ins to come through them.
What's not an accurate depiction?
For instance, if you write, like, it's now county committee person, so if I put my name down in both county committee spots, because I can, as a write-in, that counts as two for me, but it shouldn't. So she would have to adjust that. So she's not, I don't believe that, again, I don't want to speak for them, but from what
Okay,
I've,
that's not-
conversations that I've had,
Yeah.
you're, right now, they're not going to be on the printed results that are posted. They are on the tapes, but it's only in the very beginning. I'm sorry, it's only at the very end of the very first report. But will it be out for the rest? I don't know.
What's on the very end of the first report? The actual name?
It's actually not the first report. It's at the very end of the first printed copies, if you will. Like the one that's set for the board to take or to fold up, sign, and give
Subsequent
to,
copy.
send to the county clerk.
The copy that's posted will not have that on there?
It doesn't right now currently, no.
Okay.
And right now, I don't know if, again, speaking with her, I don't know if they want that or not.
I will tell you, it's not acceptable for people who are there at the end of the day not to have, not to get the full results.
They're not official
including the
results.
write-ins.
So
They're not
if-
official results.
If she wants them to go to her, it's up to her.
They're not official results, but the going back to when we had, going back to when New Jersey only had paper ballots and ballot boxes, the challengers can be there and watch the count and see what the count is.
You
If
don't
they
have
can.
to- Again, this is not me.
No, I know,
So
but I'm
it's
just
not-
saying this, it's not acceptable.
understand where
Because the
she's-
people that are there are entitled to know what the results are
And they can
from
get that
that
information
district.
from the county
No.
clerk. So they're getting a
They can get it-
centralized.
They can get it from the county
So
clerk.
let's do this.
Yes.
Let's ask Tom,
Yeah.
if you could, Tom, if you could
Yeah.
reach out to the clerk's
Yeah.
office and say that the commissioners would like to know if there's any way that we have those names on election night on the tape.
Okay.
Because the concept of it being on the tape is so that the people that are looking can do it, and they don't necessarily rely on what, and if they're concerned about whether what's presented by the county clerk is accurate, if they were there and they spent the time to be there at the close of the polls, they should know it.
Well, you're getting everything else, you're just not getting right. And again,
That's not acceptable, especially in a situation where there's a county committee.
We'll
The results come from.
I know, it's not, I'm not,
Yeah, we'll investigate.
I'm not arguing,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not arguing with you
I'm just
in
telling
any
you
way,
what I
Sheriff. I know, I'm not shooting I do not intend to shoot the messenger.
I
It's
know,
just
I
something
understand.
that the result, the answer that is not an acceptable answer. But there was, Tom, if I've got this right on the complaint, it did say write-in results were not provided, need for Republican County committees in District 1, 5, and 7. And at least one of the tapes that are attached shows that there were write-ins for, in at least one of those districts. Are they saying that those results were not reported at all?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the.
Okay. From the sheet, that one of the things you attached, which just says the complaint, paragraph 4 says write-in results were not provided, need for Republican County committees in District 1, 5, and 7. And then one of the results tape for, one of them was attached. I couldn't read too much before what you have here, but it's for, I think it was for District 7, and it showed, and it said that there were 2 write-ins for county committee in District 7. So if there were no reports of county committee for District 7, then that's a legitimate complaint and it's got to be reported. I have no idea if there was.
Well, it could be what Steve just outlined, that the results tape they saw was the second or third one,
It's just-
which
yeah,
didn't have.
it was
the-
the
No,
second
no,
report.
it's not the names. The results tape that's attached to here for District 7 in Spotswood says that there were 2 write-in votes for county committee. It
Yes.
doesn't say who they are, but the complaint from the municipal chair or whoever submitted it says write-in results were not provided, need for Republican County Committee in Districts 1, 5, and 7. I don't know anything more than what that just says, but if it says that they still have not gotten the results for those 3 districts, we can see from the results tape that there were 2 write-ins for in District 7, so there should be there. Now, I don't know if
Yeah.
they were reported later and that's what their problem is, or something different.
Okay. I can circle back to the
Yeah.
the municipal clerk and see for clarity.
Yeah. Okay.
Worker performance review.
I will defer to Ballard, Deputy Administrator Henry on that.
You each have a stack of poll worker offenses. They are in order by municipality. I wasn't planning on going through each one individually unless you'd like to. My suggestion, and the board is offering a warning letter sent to every poll worker on this list, with the exception of one, which will be terminated as a poll worker. The reason for the warning letter is because we will have mandatory training, regardless of any offense. Also, with all of the new procedures in place, some of these offenses will be null and void. We won't go through that again.
In some of these, Valerie, I looked at samples of these of what you sent, but I see there's like, in the second set, in Edison District 45, it's got 2 poll clerks in terms of this, in terms of not doing anything, but there are more than 2 poll clerks there. Have we identified that the others did not have a
In District
response?
45, these were the 2 poll workers assigned to that district.
We only had 2 poll clerks?
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I read through each.
Yeah.
Because I was curious as to how you were going to explain each of your positions. They were very formal, which is really important. And I believed in some instances I might have even gone a little bit more strongly, but of course I accept your decisions on the bulk. Thank you, by the way. I think it's really important with everything coming up. We need to have people who understand the security is important, and sticking to the details that they are explained very diligently is important.
Mr. Lynch made the suggestion that these poll workers be flagged, so when they are scheduled for training, we can make sure that we hit on the points that we need to with them specifically.
So Valerie, the warning letter is sent after how many,
If there's one
how many
infraction,
no
send a
actions?
warning letter.
How many, no, wait,
Yeah, no.
time out.
I'm sorry.
When you have no action, they do not get a warning letter, correct?
Correct.
But they are flagged.
They will be flagged, yes.
A warning letter, what's the difference from someone just getting a no action and the difference in getting a warning letter?
A warning letter is going to state the offense. It's going to list if there's another warning letter sent. It will either result in mandatory training, suspension, or termination. The no action, it's been found that it was not their fault that they're on this list.
Okay, so they basically were doing the right things, it just was, understand, okay.
Correct.
And would we even send a no action letter, except if they know that there was somebody made a complaint, then we would send it, but if they didn't, then we wouldn't send anything, right?
Correct, I'm sorry. For those
Okay.
2 poll workers, they would not get a warning letter.
Yeah, okay.
How long is the suspension?
I believe the suspension would be 1 election season or term.
So like 1 year then?
Correct.
Okay. Anything
Do
else
we
on
need
your-
a formal, I know we don't necessarily need a formal thing for the warning letters, but do we need a formal motion to terminate, to essentially never hire this other poll clerk again?
I would suggest that.
Do you want one?
I mean, ever again?
That was the idea.
Correct.
Okay.
Which one was that?
That's the top, that's Seymour Liss. It says inappropriate comments to female poll workers and voters
Was the next
did
to
not
last.
participate in the duties and responsibilities of the poll worker. And the communication of the complaint is listed as through speaking to other poll workers assigned to work at Oak Tree Elementary School as well as BOE staff members, that this is not the first election where there were similar allegations. Is there anything else we know about it?
The name in public without the person here?
Yeah, if we could refrain from using the full name.
Well, if we're going to terminate the person, then the question is whether it would be appropriate to put it on record that we're terminating the person.
We're going to request that he just does not be hired back as a full.
So we want it on the record that we don't hire him again.
Don, you're getting into a very shady area of personnel versus open meeting and things like that, so I think you got to let the staff do what they need to do.
That's why I made my comment.
That's why I asked the question whether we wanted a formal motion, because this is an action we're taking.
I don't think we should.
Okay.
We really should staff.
If you're comfortable, it's fine.
Any other comments on the poll worker review? Performance review? New business? Seasonal request.
I just wanted to, I think I've had a little preliminary discussion, but to kind of touch base, I think now would be a good time to formally request from the staff for seasonal help for the upcoming November general election. And for specifics, that we would still need people to help with the Dropbox pickups once the mail-in ballots formally go out. So we like to do that as much as we can. And again, we would request we would request 10 individuals, 5 Dems and 5 Republicans for that purpose.
Just for Dropbox?
Just for Dropboxes, so people who can be recruited specifically for that task. For seasonal,
Is the payment and time the same as a regular seasonal?
it would vary. They would come in and do their routes with like 34 locations. Each would get their amount. And then when they return, they have to do the counts and fill out the certification forms and everything else. But then we also provide the ability, if they wanted to work in the office and get a little extended hours, we do provide that opportunity as well for those folks.
Okay.
And as a caveat to that, something we learned from previous elections, if these individuals, we need these individuals to be available on election day. While we've had some good seasons before, what happens is they do drop boxes, and then the day that we need them on election day, they're poll workers or doing something else, and then we kind of use staff to kind of buttress that. So if they could be dedicated for that purpose, that would be very helpful. For seasonal work in the office, for the commissioners, we've had preliminary discussions about staff returning from Middlesex County College to the office. The space in the office will be a little bit reduced, so that in terms of the number of seasonals, and again, this may go up or down, is not as many as we requested before, but in the neighborhood of maybe 20 people that can work in the conference room throughout the day, helping with mail-in ballots, registrations, and the like. That number might go up depending on space in the office, but people who would be dedicated toward the main office in East Brunswick for seasonal help through the election. And then again, just in terms of the people who are maybe on your list last general election, who worked their 6 months and then ended it the year, they would be eligible to come back at this point. So if there are any individuals you wanted to return, we could certainly fast forward there.
When are we
Say
looking
10
for
hours
them?
and 10 days?
I would say 10 hours and 10 days at this moment. I may come back and say we might need a little bit more,
Yeah.
but I think that would be a good starting point. And then for election day and the subsequent counting days, as well as the election audit, I'm going to ask for a lot of individuals. As a matter of fact, I would like more, Commissioner Frankel has said he would like 50 boards, 100 people. I would like more than that, in the neighborhood of 150 people, for the purposes of the fact that not everyone shows up on election day. And also, I would like to provide the ability for maybe a second shift to come in the afternoon when people, election day workers begin to leave, as they get closer past lunchtime and close to dinner. We saw it last year, is that the people start to leave and our amounts go down and it affects the work. So if I can ask the commissioners to, as a preliminary number, 150, split between the parties. That way we can schedule people for the morning. We want to start early this time. And then also have an afternoon that could come in and kind of cover those people as they're leaving, so that we have a full complement of election day workers throughout that day.
So 150 on standby, you're saying?
No, if you give me 150 names, I know that we can schedule, and again, schedule is one thing. We can have 100 people in the morning, and then I would schedule 50 people for the afternoon, because you've seen it, people start leaving around, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and we can have a backup list of people that we can start to pull in at those times to be able to make sure that all the tables are filled.
Tom, if they come in the morning and they're going to be there for the day, they can stay for the day.
I'm not saying that they need to
Right,
leave.
yeah.
I'm just saying there's a natural drop off of
Yeah.
people throughout the day, and that having it, instead of, trying to pull seasonals from the office or people from the warehouse, if we have an afternoon shift, I know that I could provide 4 hours of work in the afternoon easily for a group of people. So that would be the purpose of again, over recruiting, because we know some people will not show up, and then some people will leave early, and this will provide us the ability to work consistently throughout the day.
And who keeps track of all that?
That would be, in terms of, providing the list and making those phone calls, that would be Maria when she returns from vacation.
Maria has all the names right now from the last time. Do you
She,
intend to use some of them again for
I
Dropbox
would,
and for the
I mean,
office?
I can share those lists back to you folks,
Yeah.
and you can review them and let me know if those names are acceptable.
Okay.
Well, you know who the ones are that are good. Dedicated.
Yes,
So
and when you say me, I will,
if,
Yeah.
Mike
if
and other
Maria
people.
decides to choose, say, 50 Republicans, I'd like to have the list before they're hired, so Don and I can
Can I
go
just
over it.
interrupt? I mean, we will choose, Sharonda and I chose them last time, and Kathy and the supervisors were choosing, because we work with them, so, yeah.
You're talking about for the seasonals.
Yeah, if you have suggestions, we can give you the list that we have, or if you have suggestions,
The
people,
100 that
yeah,
the administrator's talking about?
yeah.
All right, that's fine, but I want the list before they're hired,
Yeah.
so Don and I can go
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
list, okay?
We can make a notation of the ones that worked out well, and give it to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure you want to hire the ones that worked out.
Okay.
As long as you're comfortable with that, and again, I think we have a familiar, a sense of who worked out well, so we can provide that.
Two issues on this. What's the timing in terms of, if we tell people they want to work for, you want them for seasonals in the office or whatever it is, starting from when through?
Thank you. For the seasonals and for the Dropbox people, if I can have those names before September 2nd, so that those names can make it onto the September 2nd County Commissioner meeting to be approved, so they begin to work when the mail ballots go out, I guess prior to September 18th, and they can start working in the office prior to the mail ballots going out.
So we're talking from September 18th through post-election day by a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the consistent 6 months that we had in 2020.
Right.
It would be what we've probably previously done, which is 3 months on, take a break, come back for the primary, and work 3 months.
And this is for the 10 and the 10.
The first thing you talked
And
about.
again, so and
They're gonna start-
I'll send this in email so it's clear for
That's
you,
good.
but it would be,
But quickly, so we can
10
get-
Dropbox, 10 Dropbox individuals, 5 Dem and 5 Republicans.
Right.
And then 20 seasonals, 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans for the
Right.
office.
But we just wanted to know, because you said they would be starting before the ballots went out. You said you'd put them in the office to work.
Well, if they're on the.
So I just, if I send out a letter, I want to say you're going to start, September,
You could say
beginning of
starting.
September as opposed to, what is it, September 18th? When do the ballots go out?
The ballots by
18th.
statute have to be out by the 18th.
But first, they have to start going out.
They have to start going out.
Well, okay, but he said.
I got it, I got it.
I would say to cover your bases, probably say mid-September. I wouldn't
Okay.
prescribe a date per se, but just that's mid-September should suffice.
And then the seasonal in-office persons?
Would be the same kind of
Same
time frame as we would.
Excellent.
If they've worked before and Linda likes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can we just discuss that? 20 is a lot for the office, but are we gonna do the shifts, 10 in the morning, 10 in the evening like we were doing before? Because we're gonna be working late.
Yes.
So that might help us out, not having people crammed in. I can fit like 8 people in the conference room.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I would like the names and see who's
Who can work.
Who can work
available.
days, who
And
can
then
work
we can,
nights.
yeah,
Okay,
and then
fair.
we can maybe do a morning shift and an afternoon
Yeah.
shift if all 20 people are available during those times.
I just wanna make sure they know that if we need them for evening, that they're available
Yeah.
for evening.
And by evening, you mean?
Well, what did we do?
We did a
9 to
we did a 9 to 2:30 and then a 3 to 9.
9.
Oh my God, I thought you were 9 to 2:30 in the morning. It's 9 a.m.
No.
to 2:30.
Oh, no.
And then the other one was what? I'm sorry.
That's a new shift.
I'm sorry.
3 p.m. to 9.
3 to 9. Thank you so much.
Linda, you know who worked out the best. so
Absolutely,
will
I'll
you
get
sub-
Kathy and Sharonda.
Will you
Give
submit
us
those names
give us
to
a
me?
sort of a priority list, or what works for you.
Yes.
We could take the list from last year and go through them and.
The
break
10,
them
the
down.
10, and the 50, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
And
Prior to hiring.
yeah, the election day, the counters. We're talking about election day through 2 weeks.
It would be similar to the schedule we did for the primary. It would be election day, it would be that Friday, it would be the following Wednesday, and then possibly that Monday if there are any cured ballots left
So
at
it's
that
only
point.
4 days.
And then it would also be for the election audit that we would have to do for the
Okay.
general election. So that's almost a full day as well.
Okay.
That would have to be before, I think that's going to be the
We
certification is
probably
the
should know,
20th.
in the email, we should probably know
I
the
will-
proper dates, so we
Yes.
can.
I will submit the dates and the timeframes
Yeah.
for that as well.
And Linda, can the list be last name first?
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of like the last time?
Yes.
It was first name, it
Yes.
was too, it was very confusing.
With address, something so we can identify the people.
Have you gotten approval of the per hour?
Oh, yeah.
How much?
We, per you guys' instruction, we've gone to the county and sought to increase that had not been approved. I'll go back and see if that's something that they might explore for this time around. But it would be the same seasonal rate as
Which was?
before, which is
15.
14. I thought 15.
15, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to double check.
Okay. Early, is that it? First
Yes.
seasonals? Yeah. Early voting update.
I had sent, again, some of it's a draft state guidelines for early voting. It's not been finalized, but the thing I appreciate about it, and I think other staff do, is that a lot of the work within this document has been done by our colleagues throughout the state. So a lot of, instead of the state drafting these, they've kind of adopted working groups within the NJAO, of our colleagues, and they've kind of put a lot of input into this. So we have confidence, in its construction. So I just wanted to go over a couple things. I know you had questions from last meeting. And again, I don't have all the answers because we will really need to sit down and kind of put together an implementation plan, which we'll share with you and kind of go over at the September
We
meeting.
didn't have a representative on that group that put this together?
It was broken down into groups. I don't know if the clerk's office was a part of that, but we provided input, but we weren't on any of the work groups. And so for early voting for the commissioners is that it will begin on October 23rd, which is a Saturday, and will run through the 31st, which is a Sunday. prior to Election Day. It will be 7 days a week. It will be from 10 to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. On Sunday, it will be from 10 to 6 p.m. By statute, Middlesex County, as a county of our size, can have between 7 and 10 early voting sites. Looking at the county and the construction, 10 seems to make the most sense in terms of coverage of the county. And so we'll be, and again, we can have that, I know Commissioner Katz will be having that discussion about the sites themselves. In terms of the materials, you know, and a key point is that the state is looking at this, and in terms of the time construction, is that we're looking at this as not a early voting for this year, but what early voting could look like in 2024 when it's a presidential election. You know, in terms of machines, poll books, poll workers, what would be the model for that, and not really having our focus on for this year. So a change from our last meeting was, in terms of discussion about poll books, is that the state is providing grant dollars for pretty much for a lot of the equipment that we'll be using for early voting. So the state will be reimbursing the county for all costs related to electronic poll books for early voting, as well as electronic poll books in election districts on election day. They will also be covering the cost for voting machines that are used in early voting locations. They'll also be covering the costs for rental fees for these locations, which is $100, okay, as well as poll worker training costs that are associated with that. There'll be a $30, we'll call it a bonus, or we'll call it a bonus for poll workers that take training for early voting. So the cost to the county for early voting, what's that?
They're paying for poll
They're
workers?
paying $30 for the poll workers to take training specific to early voting.
But what about the daily poll workers?
And not for the daily poll workers.
Okay.
That would have to go through the legislature, which has not acted on a bill to grow the amount that poll workers can make. So that the county, in terms of costs, would have to pay for licensing, software, project management, licensing fees, and such, as well as the printers that are associated with the poll books, but not the actual poll books themselves. And that's not exclusive to Middlesex, that's countywide, and that seems to be the approach that the state is taking. Even today, all of us were down in Brookdale Community College at a simulation in terms of they had broken down the voting machines and poll books that each of the counties would be using for early voting, so that we can kind of see the opening and closing procedures that might be prescribed by the vendor, as well as kind of visualizing how that location might look. Transitioning to early voting sites. Before you is a memo, it's a draft of, in terms of conversations we've had with clerks about potential locations in Middlesex County, looking at basically trying to find the 10 biggest or most available locations that we can for November. Steve and his staff will be going out and taking a look at those locations, per a document that was prepared by the state that kind of gave us a guideline in terms of what we would need to look at for early voting. We'll be sharing that information with you folks in terms of a recommendation for early voting locations that you then can approve of. And in terms of just the site locations themselves, really just the largest towns covering the widest geographical base of making sure that each portion of the county was equally covered and represented.
Yeah, I said the largest towns are not necessarily what we have to do or what we should do, because at least in their working guideline, the conduct is a situation of having them spread out, so for purposes of voters, distance of voters to different sites. Mm-hmm. So you may have a town that is a smaller town that is more convenient to a section of voters that are not otherwise covered or close to one of the other sites. for example, I just, in terms of looking at this, I don't know where all of these are, but just, it's eyeballing it, it doesn't look like the, if you will, the northern tier of the county has anything enough. What I'm talking about is really South Plainfield, Denellen, Middlesex Borough, and probably the northern part of Edison. The closest site might be, that you have listed here, is somewhere in Piscataway, and it's not north in Piscataway. It's, I think it's some, I don't know exactly where. I'm assuming that the Piscataway Public Library is near the municipal building.
Yeah, it's right on Route 18 there, yeah.
Yeah.
Down the road from me, yeah.
So I'm not sure that we're spreading it out fully in terms of that.
Again, at this point, it's been conversations we had with the clerk. Some of it is availability, some of it is.
Right, but we haven't, but from your memo, we've only asked the clerks in the 10 largest towns.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily, that would not necessarily get us 10 locations that are most convenient overall for the voters. In fact, I did not read through the 41 pages of this since 7 o'clock this morning, but I did read the 2 or 3 early voting pages. And they gave an example of 2 towns that were near each other, and one was probably a smaller town, but the location was generally better, and that was just a suggestion in terms of it. So I'm not particularly wed, and I don't think we should be wed to just taking a polling location in each of the 10 largest towns.
But it's certainly a good place to start, don't you?
I have no problem with starting, but that's not the way the memo.
I know that, but you haven't come up with a clear
And again, we
understanding.
don't have to, I wouldn't say we have to debate it now, but
Yeah.
I mean, we can continue the discussion.
No, that's fine.
This is tentative, this memo.
It's completely tentative, it's just
But the
initial
10
conversation.
locations is still also tentative. It's possible that somebody will say, no, you're only going to have 9. Or we can have the 10, but it's based on availability, like you said, which of course my brain didn't
The
connect right
legislation says you can have 7 to 10, they'll be reimbursed by the county.
on our,
Reimbursed by the state.
Excuse me, reimbursed by
Okay.
the state, I
Thank you.
apologize.
And based on our size of county,
Based on
we
our
probably
size,
should
so-
do the
At the
largest.
10, I agree.
Well,
And
largest that we're
right
going
now,
to get paid
those 10 are
for.
10 available locations.
thank you.
So, but again, I'd be more than willing to have conversations if there's a town that, or a space that you think works well, but again, by the same token, if we're adding a town, we would also have to remove a town. So but again, I'm open to discussions about what makes the most sense.
In regards to Edison, I like the college better than the senior center is hard to get in and out of.
We tend to agree, and that's a conversation.
Yeah,
we'll
I
have
think this is
with the
more
clerk.
central,
Yes.
for
And a while ago, there was actual voting done here in the college. Because remember, we had people coming in to vote during one election?
This is not West Hall, is it?
No.
No,
Which is West
Sign.
Hall? Is that the
Yeah.
entrance, the building right near the entrance?
Yes.
The very,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, that,
the other entrance,
the Mill Road.
The entrance to
Mill Road
Mill Road,
entrance.
Mill Road
Brand new
entrance.
building.
your entrance, not mine.
Okay.
I like the camp, but we couldn't get that first weekend. Because the camp is right next to our warehouse, so it's like, I don't have to go far to take care of them. I was looking at that logistics, I'm like, that's beautiful, I could walk there if I had to.
And again, if proceeding this, if you go through the document, if you have questions about early voting, a lot of this, we still have to flesh out ourselves and kind of work through in the next couple of weeks as we start to work through and really start to the game plan for November, or actually October 23rd.
So we'll vote next month.
Well, we have to-
My ideal would be is try to get a little
By email.
certainty, so I would send it via email and ask you guys to approve such list, and then if there needs to be debate, we can obviously have that
Well,
conversation.
I'd like to know where all the public locations of these proposed ones are. There's no addresses, and I don't know if we have a map or something. The concept is what's convenient for the voters, not necessarily the 10 largest towns. So if we have a point on the map on these 10 places where they are, that may be very easy to
Yeah.
visualize as saying, hey, there's nothing over here.
Well, We'll have the
Something.
actual inspection reports, and then we can put together.
Yeah,
that.
but I'm not just looking to find out whether these places are handicap accessible or large enough to have X number of machines. We need
Or
more than that.
availability,
Hmm?
or the fact that we can't use schools, because that's.
No, no.
Exactly.
Or even better, how about municipal clerks that are willing to work with us, because we do have that issue too.
Well, apparently we've only talked to these 10 clerks. We haven't talked to any of the other clerks about the locations.
It's a lot.
Well, I'm also pleased that I believe the preponderance will be the vote by mail as opposed to the voting early. The numbers that you came up with to get the help here, I think, is so important so that when it starts to come in, we can get started. So, we're in good shape.
Great, thank you.
Steps.
And that would be it for early voting, just a preliminary discussion. If you had any other questions, we're more happy to answer them, but I think a lot of it will be shared in the next couple of weeks and in our next board meeting.
Okay. Administration reports? Linda? Or Steve first?
I didn't have any, I don't have a report in front
Work
of me.
backwards.
You have it,
I have nothing in front of me, there's no report.
Well, some of it's listed under chief
Oh, yeah,
clerk,
yeah.
but I think you have some of the stuff
Linda
building
has
and
the
grounds and
special
some stuff is on the second page.
I guess, let's see if I'm just trying to right spot. Okay, yeah. So they're doing tech training, they're probably finished up by now, or pretty close to it. Finishing up the last of the 2 days. It was supposed to go to 3 as far as voting machine tech training. We started it yesterday, and they do get a test that they get to do and finish off with that as well. And, you know, he's a good trainer from ES&S, so we'll have what we consider certified advanced techs. And, you know, it just basically dives more into the machine itself, how to change the motherboard, something we don't know. A few things he showed me yesterday, because I was at the state thing today, but the things he showed me yesterday, I already did on my own, which we knew we kind of covered a lot already, but it was still nice to know terminology, some tools that'll make our jobs easier as far as what I'm looking for to order and make it a lot easier in that sense. So they're finishing up on that today. As far as voting machines are concerned, we do have repairs, but I told them to hold, because I didn't want to do any kind of machine repairs still. Why don't we get our advanced training first? So that's kind of makes things a little bit easier. This next one is I did talk to the county, because I did reach out to Tom first. I'm in discussions with, I'm trying to remember, Dennis Seremi. He's now the new, basically the county infrastructure guy. And he's come to the warehouse. He had Silvio even come there as well. They were looking at, we need more electricity to run the voting machines and charge them. Right now, currently, it takes about 4 days to charge voting machines. I need to cut that down, especially during inspection. Running those machines during an hour of inspection with a ballot in to pull up, like you have to put a paper ballot in and actually pull it up. Actually, it dwindles down the battery life on the machine really fast, so I need to have them plugged in more, so that when we do a county-wide inspection, you know, it's a lot easier to coattail anybody who's showing up. So I do need more electricity to get more functioning. We need to be modernized, is what I was calling it, which means the lighting has to get better in there. There's a lot of things that need to happen. They looked at that. They looked at our specs for the voting machines. They looked at, you know, whether climate control, because we currently don't have air conditioning. So they're looking at all those things. They told me a couple of just loose suggestions about moving us to a different building, because there are places that are kind of updated with that. My concern only, of course, is location. You know, where I send a machine out where we currently are, it gets out pretty quick. There's a lot of venues to get machines out. Throwing us by you guys over in Route 18, if it's traffic hour, I'm not getting a machine to, you know, whether that's South Brunswick or all the way down to Monroe. If there's plenty of traffic over on Route 18, there's basically, you know, you only have 2 ways to get out, and that's it. And my concern was, you know, if you're putting us in that situation, how long is it going to take me to get a voting machine out on election day to a proper place while they're running on emergency ballots? You know, running paper and not being able to use a new machine if one goes down. So he heard that, and the good thing is he was like, okay, you know, I can always look and kind of those general areas where we can get them out with, like in, Raritan Center would be kind of an ideal place, because there's a few ways to get out, that sort of thing. So, we just had loose conversations, nothing permanent or anything. And then because the idea is also, we can put, and just modernize a warehouse if they're gonna put the money into it. And so, they're not sure what they're doing yet, and there's been meetings since then, and they haven't come back to me yet, but that's just something that I'm bringing up to now, because that's the only discussions that we've had are pretty loose in the beginning so far. But I know he's looking into, there's a possibility of getting a grant where you can actually get the actual air conditioning unit for free, which is the most expensive part of upgrading our warehouse. Either way, electricity and lights, they have no problems updating. I had an electrician in to take a look at it, and he wanted to do the whole thing right away and actually give us a lot more drop outlets and things like that to make it modernized and to really work with our needs, to what we need. And they seem pretty okay with that. I'm just not going crazy yet as far as changing over my warehouse, because I don't know if I'm going to currently be there. So I'm just waiting on them to get back to me on that sort of stuff. And obviously they were like, this is not going to be for November or October. And I said, it's something I need eventually. It's something that needs to happen no matter what. So, again, I don't know how long these conversations are going to last, but that's what's on the docket right now. And the only other thing I have is a polling place change that I want to bring up so that you guys can vote on it. In North Brunswick, the township clerk wants to get out of Our Lady of Peace Parish. Same issue we had a few years ago, where these Catholic diocese churches, they want to charge us for insurance that is like absurd. So they don't, she's just like, look, we had our own issues with them anyways, so they built a new middle school. We're using it currently as a polling place. We just used it. It's a wonderful place. They'd like to take one of the districts, geographically it works, to move it over to the middle school, which I have down here as, I think, District 11, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
7 and 11.
And 7 is going to, they want to move that one because of geographic. Again, it actually works better going to diet. Those people that live around that area in 7 can go to the high school. So they just want to eliminate Our Lady of Peace Parish. And for our standpoint, it's a problem even with shipping. So as far as I'm concerned, it's actually a better thing for us.
Well, I have two questions or comments. One, generally our policy has not been to move a polling location between primary and general. So is that in?
We're not using the Our Lady of Peace Parish right now. This would be a permanent change after the selection.
We're not
They're
using?
already split into two that you see. They're already in those generalized. So, remember, because of COVID,
Okay.
they didn't let us in to begin with. So we didn't force our way into it.
So for the primary, those polling locations.
The voters from these districts
Already going.
for the primary were voting in these locations?
Correct.
Okay, that's
So that would be eliminated.
Okay.
You are going to have to move the high school out, though, because they are having construction on a new transformer right when they shut down for the, what is that called again? The
NJEA convention?
Yeah, whenever they do the convention, they get shut down for that week, they are actually doing a new transformer over in the school to update their electricity. So they're not allowing anybody to go over in that area. So we're not even gonna be able to use the high school. I'm in current talks with the clerk to actually, we're probably gonna have to move those two districts that are in there. The one that's currently there and then this District 7, we'll have to move them for the general election.
There's presently only one district in there?
Currently, yes,
Were there
but
more
there's gonna be
before?
two.
'Cause years back, I went into that polling place, I seem to recall more than one district, but it doesn't matter. Okay,
Not that I know of.
okay. Have we talked to, have we cleared this, or at least let the respective municipal chairs know about this change?
I don't know the answer to that. Because this will be a change in the future. It's not, right now, currently, they're actually, what you see here is what's on
Yeah,
the
but we're
paper.
talking about a permanent change,
Yes.
not a COVID, not just.
Well, either way, they can't afford to use this as a polling place anymore.
Yes.
Because they want to charge us $5,000. So it's not, for the clerk's idea, they're like, we're done, we're not going back. So even if this is a move that can't be made anymore as far as,
But we
You-
always.
I could tell her to
talk
come.
We always talk to the municipal
I could tell her to make
chairs
sure she does
first,
that.
because it's possible they may say, no, these people should go to a different location, as opposed to, even if it's not staying
The
here.
chairs don't choose that.
No, but
Okay.
we can have a comment to see if they have an issue, which is what we always do, so we see if they have an issue. If they don't have an issue, it's no issue at all. If they do have an issue, we should know about the issue because they're also on the ground.
Yeah.
We should at least
But
know about it
that's-
before we approve it.
So
Usually
would you
when
like-
it's been
so
a-
would you like Steve to go back to the clerk, ask them to
Yeah, we just
ensure?
want, it probably will not be an issue, but then again, that's our protocol and that's the concept because
It's a courtesy.
it's a courtesy.
Yeah, but when we're shut out of a polling place, we've never really asked that question. We just
We've
kind of-
always asked that question,
We do.
including when there's been construction or otherwise we closed out. And if we've moved it, we've at least asked the respective chairs if they had any comments before we voted.
I'll bring it back to Lisa.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect that it's not going to be an issue, but this is the process that we do.
So make a motion to permanently change these subject to Stephen getting approval from the clerk that you spoke to the municipal chairs.
And they have no comments. I'm not saying,
No,
if they
subject
don't
to-
approve, they
subject-
don't approve it, but if they have comments on it, then I would like to know about it, because there may be suggestions to go to a different location instead of one of these others. I don't know, but I don't know that.
Amending Commissioner Katz's comments. I make a motion.
Is that roll call?
Yes,
Second.
Second, I need a second.
Oh,
Second,
No,
roll.
Chairperson Engel,
Yes.
yes.
Commissioner Frankel, Commissioner Katz,
yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
This is a very quick question. Did you-
Moskowitz wants
did-
to say
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Did you receive and/or send a written memo regarding the topics that you discussed with Mr. Cerami? Just to have it available for future, not that anything would be etched in stone, but that you would remember what exactly was done, said?
Not really, because he just showed up, and he asked for a meeting, and he showed up at a specific time. He said he was going to be there, and we just went over a conversation more or less.
I know you usually keep really good notes. so
Yes,
it'd be nice if
I
you
didn't
both
do
had
any of that because
the
he's
same notes.
literally like, I'm going to check into things and I'll get back to you. So if he comes back with anything in writing and stuff like that, I'll make sure.
That'd be great.
Yes, they were all preliminary talks. I mean, that's the only thing that happened was the
I
show.
agree,
Yeah.
but it's always good so that you both can remember.
Yep.
Thank you.
Linda, your
Yes.
report?
Yeah. So voter registration, as of yesterday, they were under 1,200 records, but I'm sure it's lower than that. We had a little bit of an issue with motor vehicle duplicating records, so the staff was working on removing them from the system. They put the name in twice, and sometimes 3 times, so. The staff here at the college have been really working on motor vehicle. Yeah, numbers, Kath?
Yeah.
485 online, all right, so 1,700, it went up a little.
We actually
Every
got
day they
down.
upload.
Yeah, we actually got down.
Thank you. So the staff's been working on the mail-in ballots for the fire election, which is August 18. There'll be limited staff work until 9 PM to do the processing and any walk-ins. Regarding the primary, we're still cleaning up. We've been working on changing voters to inactive from the sample ballots that were returned. That's completed, and they're going to be getting the cards by this week, beginning of next week. We send out notification. Address changes are completed. Provisional ballot changes were done. No Week had a webinar for the poll worker module, which was not working correctly. The team has been working on it. They're trying to navigate through the module so we can utilize it for November, for staffing, for the certificates and all that. That's it. Seasonals that we currently have are done by August 31st. They're out. They finished their time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, welcome.
Administrator report?
Again, I reviewed most of it in my conversations with you today, and it's really just the focus is on November and implementation of early voting as well as the electronic poll votes.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner comments?
I have, as you know, I went to the conference in New York City. The primary thing that I was looking for was to see what information I could glean about early voting. And whatever I did learn, I told both Tom and Valerie. The only thing there wasn't that much that was specifically available, but it seems the jurisdictions, almost none of the jurisdictions I was able to talk to, and it wasn't a lot, none of them seem to hire a poll clerk for the full 8 or 9 days or their period of time. They seem to take poll clerks that were normally work on election day in different locations and use them for a day or two each. That was the only thing of consequence on that part of it. And the only other thing that's of particular consequence, and I think you already, at least Tom and maybe Valerie, I don't know if the staff already knows about this, it appears that New Jersey will be joining ERIC. That's the multi-state compact, which will be providing information about voters and updates, et cetera. So that's all I have.
That's it?
Yeah.
Commissioner comments, any other?
Just one, I'm sorry. Just one question. So is there a deadline for these 10, or, I mean, I'm a little nervous about waiting for the next meeting, getting all the information.
So we're going to do it by email.
I know, but I mean, can we make a,
That's Charlie, the deadline is May 15th.
Yeah,
deadline was May 15th, so.
But
that's what he put in his email.
Okay.
But the state acknowledges that when the bill was passed, that was, no counties had early voting sites at that place. The bill hadn't really been passed yet. So it's just that we were down in Brookdale, everyone's in the same boat. They're finalizing, some have, but everyone's finalizing their locations right now and finalizing them. So I think our goal is really to get the approval so we can reserve these spaces for November.
That's my,
Yes.
is the approval of the spaces, because you have to go out and make sure you secure them, because who knows if they're going to be around. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
there were only two other counties, election officials from 2 other counties at the conference. Union County had selected 6 sites. They didn't realize they had to do 7, so they hadn't selected a 7th one as of that day. And Essex County had not selected any of their sites at that point, although they had, she said that she broke down the county into like segments in terms of where to put them, and that's as far as they got. So nobody has done that. That's not the short.
I'm sure, again, I mean, it's a little silly, but moving forward for early voting, much like election polling locations that are certified, it would be part of that process is that early voting locations would have to be inspected or improved by May 15th of each year. But the legislature, that Bob Giles from the state acknowledges that that was an unrealistic time frame.
Thank you.
Overstate the Woodbridge election, do you need us here? No. Public comment.
Madam Chair, I just want to confirm we get 5 minutes, and then after everybody else is done, I'll get another 5.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a document I'd like to put into the record, one for each of you. Charles Cradaville from New Brunswick. I'm the editor of New Brunswick Today, community newspaper here. And I guess the first thing I wanted to clarify is, does this board intend to restore or keep all the normal polling places for the November general election? I know there was some talk last time about scaling down. Are we going to have all 212 polling places, or maybe 211 after that change?
It's work in progress.
Work in progress.
Can't say-
Conversations
yeah.
we've had with clerks is that they're finding that some locations are the ones that we weren't able to use in the primary are now willing to be polling locations again. So I don't think we'll have any, absent any reduction in polling locations. We might actually have some more that are willing to be polling locations again for November.
Thanks, that's good to hear. I do see that the county clerk is not here. And as you know, at your June 8th meeting, you raised the issue that some voters had received the wrong ballot and thus were disenfranchised. They returned a ballot for a different party and therefore it was rejected by this board. She was in the room, I asked her, she left the room when I asked the question. I followed up via email. You can see the emails. 2 of them, no response to either. I happened upon the county clerk twice in the city of New Brunswick and asked her on the record about this. And the first time she did not answer, did not, give a substantive answer. She, said things like, "What a great event today," or, non sequiturs. And then the other time, she, as they say, exercised her right to remain silent. So I'm very concerned that the person in charge of sending out the ballots, printing the ballots, has made some pretty major screw-ups in the primary. As you know, some of the ballots did not have bubbles for all the candidates, and we saw the wrong ballots arriving in mailboxes across the county. Can you tell me for the record how many voters had their ballot rejected because they returned the wrong ballot, having been sent the wrong ballot? Last I heard was 29. Maybe there's been more.
I don't think we have that figure right now.
I don't have the figure. It was covered in the last
We can
meeting that we
research it.
had. I mean, I could share that with you, but I don't have that in front.
And I don't have the minutes.
And when can we reasonably expect the county clerk to explain herself? She did not attend your last meeting, I noticed. And, I've asked her, on the street, via email, multiple times. I'm not getting an answer. What can we do to make sure the clerk does her job and explains herself? And if she made a mistake, own up to it.
Well, we can't speak for the county clerk, John.
Can you ask her to attend your next meeting? I've said as a best practice, it's always nice to have somebody from that office here because inevitably questions come up and coordination's often an issue, could be so much better. Let's try to have somebody here every time. And yeah, really disappointed in the county clerk and what is essentially cowardice, avoiding the issue rather than addressing the issue. It's just unacceptable to me. But I'll move on. I do want to ask about another comment I heard at the meeting on the 30th. This is from Commissioner Moskowitz. Quote, "She told me," what was the woman's name from ES&S? "She told me herself they screwed up the program." Through the chair for Commissioner Moskowitz, can you explain what you meant when you said that you talked to somebody at E&S who told you herself that they screwed up the program?
You had that conversation. Do you want me to take that for you?
Would you mind? Thank you.
Yeah, it was, and I think it was probably after I had gone over the election issues in terms of the postscript to that. So I think that in terms of circling back to you was that was regarding the issue in terms of Republican ballots, in terms of how they were programmed and how they were tabulated. That, for the Democratic ballots, they all had to, it could just be by town, whereas the Republican ballots had to be by town and by district. And so I believe that was the issue that they were talking about. And again, it didn't have any impact on the results in any manner. It was just it did kind of delay the actual physical counting. But again, the S&S has already resolved the issue regarding that, so.
Okay. Yeah, I did hear some other discussion about that in the meeting. I guess I'm also concerned about what I heard right before and right after those comments. So Commissioner Moskowitz said something to the effect of, you didn't respond to the text I sent you. It sounded like she was talking to the other commissioner. Through the chair for Commissioner Moskowitz, do you often text the other members of the board during the meeting?
I absolutely do not even remember that comment.
Okay.
Do you know to whom? I don't know.
We received it.
What?
Pardon?
I absolutely don't remember the comment. You have better familiarity with the tape, so I don't know. I don't know.
An offhand comment, I don't know what you're speaking to, so I was in the room. But Ms. Crowley,
5
you're
minutes is up, John.
Okay, I'll yield the floor.
Hi folks, Herb Tarboos, 411 Newmarket Road, Piscataway. I have a question about, I'm sorry, I don't have the actual citation, but there's a statute that talks about the size of the election districts where you need to have at least 250 voters or less than 750 voters in 2 consecutive elections. Is that something that is monitored at all and reported on?
After the census, we usually look at the districts in the county.
There's
Size.
the statute provides that you can't make any changes in election districts regardless of size without special permission from the Attorney General for about 3 or 4 years before the census. We don't have the census, the final census numbers yet, so we can't
Right,
do anything.
well, I'm not concerned about the census, I'm concerned about the monitoring. This threshold in the statute talks about the number of votes cast in the elections, in 2 consecutive elections.
But you can't change the election districts, i.e. the number of voters in a district, based on the statute until after the census is out.
Interesting.
You can't do that.
Oh, I understand that, yeah, like years.
Is your question, are we
7-0.
monitoring? Yes, we
Yeah,
are, yes,
how
yes,
many-
we,
how many
your
districts
question
are
is,
there?
we're
Yeah.
always monitoring, yes.
So how many districts are there now that are,
Election districts?
yeah,
We'd have to get you a list of it, we were monitoring all the time.
okay. And when was the last time any election districts were changed? Was it changed at the last census or
What town are you speaking?
the whole county?
What's that?
The whole
We
county?
could not make any changes after 2017 by law without separate special permission from the Attorney General's.
I think
So I'm assuming it was sometime before that, but I don't know for sure.
16, I believe, was the last time.
Yeah, you're
Was
right.
it done in 16? Okay. And another note, in the 2019 primary election ballot, I voted for my county committee members, and it said it was a 2-year term on the ballot. But yet there was no county committee election in 2019 with no information coming from the county or the election board whatsoever as to why these offices, which had a 2-year term voted on in 2019, were not on the ballot in 2021. Could you tell me what happened with that?
What part?
The entire county, the Democratic.
Is Democratic Party, okay. Democratic Party, you guys voted to extend it?
Well, that's the party, this is the government, right? So why, I mean, as a citizen voting, why wasn't I notified that the county committee elections were not happening?
You're a Democratic committee person?
No.
Oh, so I'm not sure.
I'm a voter.
The terms were, the terms were,
But they, as a party, they got together during COVID, they discussed and decided to extend it, the terms because
Right, but I
of-
was not, as a voter, I was not notified that there was no county committee election happening in 2021. Even though in 2019, the ballot said it was a 2-year term.
Did you get a sample ballot, sir?
Yes, it was.
Well, then you're notified on a sample ballot,
What's up?
you're seeing no county committee on the sample ballot, so you were notified.
That's a little bit after the fact, right? I mean,
Fine,
that's-
It's actually
you're seeing it on your
Well-
sample ballot,
Before the election.
before the election.
So you're telling me it was a party decision, even though the government sent me a ballot that said the 2-year term, you're telling me it was a party decision that somehow revoked what happened in the 2019 election?
I'm sorry, I'm not following,
In 2019, we voted
you voted for a 2-year term.
2-year term.
For your
In
committee, for your
2021.
committee person.
In 2021, so.
And 21,
How is-
and 21, the whole country, world, COVID.
I understand.
Okay.
during the
So-
primary you voted for the committees.
Yeah,
For
let
no
me-
I
committee.
understand-
there were no
I
committee seats.
understand- I understand that the party used the COVID as a pretext to extend their term.
So I think you should be speaking to your committee, your county committee,
Chairman,
and your chairman.
Committee chair.
this is not the
No,
vote for something like
the
that.
ballot came from the county, not the chair. The ballot came from the county.
Go ahead.
One, the party offices, the county committee, et cetera, are governed by the respective political parties, not by the government. The government, through the statute, runs the elections based on what the parties tell us, right, or tell the county clerk in terms of that. So if the party says it's X terms, or we're not having an election this year, then it's followed up by the county clerk and the Board of Elections in terms of doing that. It is not the government's responsibility, either the county clerk or the Board of Elections, to tell voters about changes that the particular parties have made. It is responsibility of the county clerk and the Board of Elections to run the elections based on what races are then up, and we were told that are then up by, in terms of party offices, by the parties.
So the county clerk, though, receives letters, right, bracketing letters from the municipal or the county chairs, right, in order to configure the ballot. So if the 2019 ballot said that there was a 2-year term, how is the county election board or the county clerk, how are they in a position to accept anything beyond 2021 from the party as being the official body of the party?
The parties make that determination, right? There's a U.S. Supreme Court case that that ratifies the fact that it's the parties,
You versus
that it's the
separatists.
parties, parties' right. So if you have a problem in terms of whether it was another committee race or not committee race, you deal with the party. We as election administrators run the election based on what we are told in terms of the party offices. What we are told is up by the parties.
Sir, your time
Well,
is
how
up.
do you-
5 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Three. 3 minutes, Charlie.
Oh, I thought I was going to get 5. That's what I had asked for up front and was told that I would get.
No, 3. The second time you come up, it's 3 minutes.
I was pretty clear with my question. I thought I got an affirmative answer. I was going to get 5 more minutes.
I
Okay.
meant 3 minutes.
Okay, well, yeah. Can't have too much public comment, right? So I second what Herb is saying. It's sick and un-American for people who are in an office to extend their own terms in office. It should be illegal, and everyone here should be standing up against it. Those who allowed it to happen, I hope that will weigh on their conscience for the rest of their lives.
But as a board, we can't dictate. the
Excuse me, sir, I have the floor. Following up on what I was talking about before, the recording of the last meeting seems to indicate that Ms. Moskowitz you're made aware that you were being recorded. And then, once you were made aware that you were being recorded, you asked if it could be canceled. Could you cancel it? And I'm just curious why you didn't want your statements about ES&S screwing up their program to be recorded. Through the chair.
That had nothing to do with it, actually.
Well, by the mere fact that it wasn't deleted shows that we were in accordance. I mean, I think the question was whether or not we were on recess or a break was the question in terms of whether or not we were.
I believe we were on break, there was a personal discussion, and there was many things said.
But there was
None
no
of which
motion
you
for a
were
recess,
recording.
therefore nothing was
Right.
deleted and everything was shared
Correct.
as was on the audio.
Just rubs me the wrong way when I hear a recording of people saying, ooh, you're being recorded, can we cancel it? And they're talking about the people who run our voting machines screwing up. You know, that doesn't seem right to me, and I feel like a lot of this stuff's done behind closed doors and not out in the public where it should be. So back to ES&S. Not only did they delay the counting of ballots by not letting you know till halfway through the day that you had to do all this separation, Mr. Nyers noted, I have a feeling it's a coding error on their part. Quote, they made some mistakes this election and they're learning. I don't think they want to say that out loud. And that's the problem. When mistakes are made, they need to be said out loud, they need to be on the record, and we need to make changes so they never happen again. And if ES&S is the type of company that likes to cover things up and keep it quiet, when they make mistakes with our elections, then they're not the type of company we should be bringing into Middlesex County. And if we have board members who don't want to be forthright and upfront about their thoughts on this and don't want to have it be on the record, then they shouldn't be board members. That's as simple as it is for me. There's a number of other issues. I'm probably not going to be able to get through all of them in my time. So with the issue with people being assigned to the wrong districts, apparently Remington-Vernick was involved with the state, and there was a problem with migrating the data, mass confusion, the geocoding was wrong, and some people were in the wrong district and probably voted in the wrong election, in the wrong committee races for the Republicans. I didn't hear any follow-up about that this time.
What town are we talking about here?
My home.
New Brunswick?
I went to vote with my girlfriend. She was in a different district than I was. Our house is all in the same district. What happened and how widespread is that?
You're a committee person in the district?
No, I would have ran if they let me have a race this year, but they took away our elections. They stole the election and doubled the length of their term. So I wasn't a candidate, but I was a voter, and somebody else in my house was voting in a different district because that's what your book said. How did that screw up happen?
I think that was covered in the last meeting, but I'll repeat it. It was an error in terms of what was, I guess, previously legacy or the old system in the SVRS and what was inputted in terms of new voters into the new system in terms of geocoding. We attempted to get a master list of the GIS that would do it by street and by district from SVRS, so it might be easier to identify if there are other instances similar to that. Unfortunately, we were unable to get that, so what we are doing is we are getting a master list that just has the voter, the address, and the district, and we're going to go line by line between now and the end of the month and actually cipher out if there are any other instances similar to yours. So hopefully it's just limited in basis. We might have a little bit more context to that for the next meeting. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of work for our seasonals and for our staff, but it's important to get it right, so we'll go over those lists between now and the end of the month.
Your time is up.
Thank you. I just want to offer, I'm happy to help in any way. I know every district in New Brunswick. I know where the intersections are. I know the house numbers. And yeah, I hope that gets fixed. And I hope that the election was not damaged by people voting in the wrong districts.
I mean, I would just say it was your instance and another instance of that couple in
Oak Ridge.
that was mentioned to us as an instance that we're able to confirm and fix. Hopefully that's the limit of it, but again, we'll fix what we have to do between now and November.
Motion to adjourn?
No, public.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Herb Tarbuskin, thank you, Commissioner Katz, for your explanations. I understand that the party informs the county about what elections are going to happen. Is there some sort of certification for, how is the person who provides the county with the information certified that this is the correct person to receive the information from? Like the county committee is elected, right? So the election results are certified by the county, and then the county committee elects a chairman. So how does the county know who the chairman is? Is there a certification of some sort that goes on there?
The chairman's elected by the committee people.
The chairman's elected.
Yeah, I understand that, but how does the county know who to accept the bracketing letters from?
Well, they usually send us the name and the address.
If there's a change in, if there's a change in county chair.
There's a certification, like a chain of evidence sort of thing, chain of custody. Like how is an individual certified by the county to be the person who represents the party that's giving the instructions?
The parties provide the names of their county chairs and such, and when they change, and that's accepted. It's generally known. I mean, this board consists of 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, each of which are involved in our respective parties. So we are aware of any change in the county chairs. So we know that the names that are given in are legitimately the current chairs.
Okay. So the county committee elections, are they certified by the county? The county committee elections?
No, county. Well, they're the county election itself of your county committee is
The results are
certified.
certified.
Results are
Yes.
certified,
Yes.
yes.
The county committee, individual county
Right.
committee elections.
Right.
The results are certified, yes.
Okay. So that then there's like a chain of command, like there's no, who certifies what happens as far as who the county chair is? Who certifies that? That you're then taking instructions
That is
back, you're
not a
taking
governmental-
instructions.
That is not a governmental function to certify the respective county chairs.
Right, but the
The
government-
party, we are, the party, the Board of Elections and the county clerk are aware of who the current chairs are. And any change in chairs is provided.
And if
It's
any
not a
question, as you as a committee person,
I'm not a committee person.
if you were a committee person and you wanted to question the results, you would be questioning through the county committee, not through the election board, not through the county clerk.
Right. Okay, my sort of observation or question is, by what virtue does the county rely on a letter from a specific individual? That person is the legitimate representative of the party.
I think you're looking for an instrument, a
Yes.
legal instrument?
Yes.
There is no legal instrument, I don't believe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Yes, Chairman Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin.
Yes.
Commissioner Katz.
Yes.
Commissioner Monkey.
Yes. Tell me when the tape is off, please.